It's not possible to not address maybe some of the images that are surfacing from across the seas, where the horrific earthquake that hit parts of Turkey and Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq caused, fortunately, many fatalities and countless number of people who are homeless and hurt. I try not to speak about these things because I feel like there's really not much left to say in the world, and I wouldn't know how to begin to address these things any longer. It was easier for me years ago, but I find it hard now. And I know that these things happen all over across the globe, and some of you come from backgrounds where these things happen and they go completely unnoticed, and for that I have an eternal apology that I put out at the world for you. Because there is no human life that is less valuable than the other. And if some human lives tend to be talked about more than others, it's a flaw of the speakers, and it's a flaw of the system. It has nothing to do with the value of the life itself. And because of that, sometimes I try to just ignore it all, but you can't. At some point, it becomes very difficult. And what we're seeing today is, and what bothers me is really not the images as much as some of the comments that people make on these things. It's really that's really what's bothersome. These things happen. This is a part of life. You're alive on this planet. Things like this occur. They've been occurring forever. If you studied any aspect of history or any amount of anthropology, then you'd understand that the planet has gone through like 6 extinctions, where horrific events occurred, and all life was wiped off many times. These things happen. It's a part of life. It's a part of the deal that we were given when we were told, you're on this planet, you're a part of life. You're a part of this extremely unique experience that we don't know. There's another example of in the universe that's visible to us and that we know of, where you're here and you're alive and you have metacognition and you have the ability to think and to wonder and to build and to change things. And you're this mix of the soil and the earth and the mix and something that's godly and heavenly. And it's just a part of that of this deal is that you're on a planet that has there's a lot of pain in it, and there's a lot of problems and a lot of catastrophes and there's disaster. It's just a part of the deal. It comes with the package. So it happens. And then when it does happen, we find people going around saying, this is because of the noob. Who is the noob? The people there? Honestly, the people there? Like what are you there? You know what they were, what are you talking about? Who, based on what? Based on what are you saying this? The only time you can take a worldly phenomenon and call it something, call it anything besides a test, by the way, anything besides what it actually is, which is a part of the world, it's a part of life, it happens and they were tested with it. Everyone is. Those who are under the rubble are tested and those who watch them are tested equally. It's a different type of test, but it's an equal test that we're all held to. For you to call it anything else requires a direct line of communication with God Almighty. Like He should be speaking to you specifically, telling you that I punished those people, or else you hold your tongue. What are you talking about, dhunub and why? Why would you say that to something that happened to people? You weren't there. If you're under the rubble and that's what you're saying, I can listen to it. I would listen to it. If you're lying there holding your 5-year-old under the rubble saying it's because of my dhunub, I'll listen to that. But sitting here with nothing happening to you, saying something like that, or anywhere else in the world, that is an abomination. That is one of the worst things you could ever do. Because that is the amount of arrogance that comes in that. That's from the comfort of our homes, of course. It's easy to call this and to call that. That's not how this is done. This is not, we don't use it like that. You see that, if you want to learn from, remind yourself that you're weak and that, yes, that's good. But if it requires an earthquake to be reminded that you're weak, then again, the amount of arrogance there needs to be reconsidered again. I don't think an earthquake is something that you're required to be reminded that you're weak. We're weak by nature. I don't need an earthquake to remind me. I already know that. But when these things happen, what it should remind you of is that you're a part of a bigger picture. You're a part of a larger group of human beings. You're a part of an ummah, and if you're smart enough to see that you're a part of humanity, then when something like that happens, you respond. You respond with every aspect of your being. You respond emotionally, you respond intellectually, you respond financially and socially. You respond to their pain, and you react to their pain in a way that shows that you understand what it means to be in pain. That's what these things are. These things occur, and that's what we're supposed to do. There are people who see these catastrophes and then turn to the sky in objection because they're ignorant. And then there's people who just keep their mouths shut and do the work. They go and they do the work. They see a need, they see pain, they see agony, they see suffering, and they just go and they find a way to relieve it, even if it's one person at a time. Even if we're relieving it even if this whole masjid only relieves the pain of one person, it's still worth going and doing. Because imagine how many masajid there are. There are more masajid in the world than there are people who are dying and suffering right now. So if every masjid just took care of one person, there would be no need for a lot of the talk that comes out and the thoughts and the ways of... It's like this is the first earthquake that ever happened. Isn't it? No earthquakes have ever occurred before. We are dealing with this for the first time. This happens all over the world all the time. Why are we acting like this is the first time it happens? We just respond. Something like this happens. We say, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We put our hands on our pockets and we put the money that we can and we support and we make dua for them and we stand by those who are suffering, and that's it. And we move on. And if we need to if we use something like that for our own self-provision to say, I should be more thankful for what I've got, great. But be careful in what you say, and be careful. And it's not about them. When these things happen anywhere. I remember the same thing came out years ago when I was younger, when the tsunami hit the one part of the world. And it became an act of punishment. The arrogance that comes with that. The arrogance of saying something like that, it's beyond me. I don't understand it. I cannot comprehend it. How can we say something like that? Unless God is speaking to you directly. He talked about certain things being punishment, subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Quran, we know what happened to Qawm Lut, we have what happened to Qawm Salih and Qawm Hud. We know He called them punishments. I have no right to call anything that happens to anybody punishments. But I do have the ability to identify a need, to see suffering, to see agony and pain, and to respond to that emotionally and do what I can. Give what I've got. That is what we're supposed to do here. Any other reaction is just a cowardly run away from escape from reality. That's all it is. It's just trying to figure out a way to say that it wouldn't have happened to me. I have to burst your little bubble there. It could happen to any of us. There's no reason that it happened to that one group of people in Turkey and Syria or Pakistan or Afghanistan or any part of the world where these things happen and they continue to happen, and I'm at fault for not knowing when they happen and how they happen, and I'm ashamed of it, honestly, I really am. But it's not about them, it's not about us. These things happen, and then you respond to them appropriately if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted you the ability to be safe when it did. And that's it. And you leave it at that. Humbly, with humility, and with a certain degree of reverence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it goes on. And that's all I have to say about it. Keep them in your dua and look for ways to support them. There's a lot of efforts that are going out on a daily basis to support them. See what you can do to support them. It's something that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy to observe or ever be a part of. May Allah protect all of us, inshallah, and all the Muslims.